Welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm your host, Alex Lee, the CEO of QIC. Today we talk about microtechnology in the world. Taiwan and South Korea were the dominating player in the global panel industry in the last 20 years, till Chinese company entered in the business with a huge government subsidies and the sizable market. Until recent changes in the display industry, i.e. micro LED as a leading front run for the display industry, make Taiwan back to the core of the business again. Today, we have Charles Lee, the founder of PlayNitride. PlayNitride is a leading manufacturer for micro LED industry in the world. The company just went public as the first ever TIB listing company in Taiwan. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you, Alex.
I know you've been spending and traveling in the last about months everywhere, and particularly you just finished an exhibition at the SID in LA, USA. SID, as we know, is the largest display technology exhibition. You must bring something new from this particular exhibition.
Okay, let me get back to 2017. Actually, I was alone at that time to participating this SID Display Week, which is the largest display show in the world. I was alone there, and nobody really knows what exactly micro is, or I should say, nobody even heard about that at that time. And after a few years' work, this year is really different. I believe that, well, first of all, we actually won 3 awards, and we participated in 2018, 2019, and there's a COVID, so we also reattend that last year, 2022, and this year. So every year we actually won different awards. And so a few things I want to mention. First, in the beginning, we actually won new award, new technology award at that 2018. And this year, this is not new technology now. Everyone understands this is the technology happening right now. And so we actually got very good feedback from customers. And to be honest, this becomes really the hardest topic today in LED industry. And we have all major, conventionally major LCD players, they all attend to this with some micro LED technology in their booth. So I would say this year is really the beginning of this industry right now.
Great. We'll come back to more detail about
Sure.
the killer application you may find out from this particular show. Well, let's congratulate again for another great year.
Thank you.
For the award at the SID. Well, nevertheless, other than the technology development, you also turned out to be the first technology company listing in TIB, Taiwan, last year. TIB is a short name for Taiwan Innovation Board.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
You are well demanded and well welcomed by the Taiwan global market, right? For the TIB. Can you just tell us why TIB? Why you become the first one there?
This is a very good question. First, why Taiwan? We are actually a Cayman Island company, but we are 100% running operation in Taiwan right now. So all of our, not all, but most of our employees, they are Taiwanese good engineers, good employees in the company. So for us, it's kind of natural to think about doing our IPO in Taiwan. I think it's an honor, and also we believe it's also a responsibility, but it's pretty natural for us to think about this in Taiwan. But think about in TIB, which is, as you mentioned, we are the first one in Taiwan Innovation Board. This is a little bit different from what we think in the beginning. We hope that we are kind of normal company compared to a very special number one company. But for some reason, we do see that for Taiwan's capital market, they do need something new. Especially think about different market in China and in US. They have some kind of board for new tech, new market. And so we got approached by officials in TWSE, and we believe that this is a very good chance for us and also for Taiwan new economy, new business companies. And we do hope that we become one of the leader in this field. So this is how we did make this decision.
Well, for those audience you don't know Taiwan Innovation Board too well, I probably can share with some of the interesting data. PlayNitride actually went public sometime like August 2022 at the highest kind of a valuation ever in this particular space. We are talking about like roughly about 40 times of a price to sales at 2022, right? I bet depends on how analysts and the portfolio manager give it the forecast for this year. It ranging from like a 10 to 15 times price to sales for 2023. I guess among all of the disruptive technology company in the world, which possibly among the highest.
I think so.
I bet you also offer a lot of free consultation for other new founder in Taiwan, right?
Yes.
What's your recommendation? Or I assume you give a positive feedback of listing the TIB.
I talked to many of CEOs for new economy in Taiwan, and they're all smart people, and they are all doing something I think much more brilliant than us. And what I actually tell them is, I think for company like us, we are doing something very different. So we need time for people to understand us. And sometimes just tell people we are like doing innovation things is very important. So people don't expect like steady growth of your revenues, steady growth of your earnings. So people understand this is kind of like a bumpy journey. And in this case, I think TIB becomes a very good saying. We told you that already. This is TIB. And so people need to understand that there's a kind of bumpy thing ahead of us. And so this actually reduce our pressure as CEO of the company. This, we don't need to expand too much. Otherwise, this year is historical high and next month is historical low. This is hard to expand, and we don't need to do that in TIB. So this becomes very important for us to manage the company.
Great. Well, talk about journey, right? Other than the technology development, yourself actually is a pretty interesting kind of a technology and an academic kind of a transfer, right?
Yes.
Can you just introduce a little bit what made you transfer from a totally academia to the industry?
As you mentioned, I was a professor in National Taiwan University, Department of Electrical Engineering, which I believe is the best department or best university in Taiwan. I don't want to say best, but according to their entrance exam score, that's the best. And we have a lot of smart students, very brilliant students in the department. As a professor, I just actually got my PhD from United States and then came back to school. I think it's very hard for me to educate them. All I can do is to show them what is in the book. And to be honest, they can do this themselves. So I feel like I do need more experiences or more view so that I can teach them better. And this is one of the motivation for me to come back to the industry instead of keeping my whole life in universities. Yeah, so this is the motivation. And of course, it became much more different than what I thought before. And so I joined the company and I quit, and then I started up a company. So I learned a lot, not only technical wise, but also in fundraising, a lot of low issues, a lot of things that I never thought about, even like price of the stock, price, valuation of the company. Never thought about that. And I actually learned a lot and do believe that if I go back to school, I can really show them what's really in the world.
Now, for sure, you are the master of everything,
Not
including
really
the capital
master.
market. Let's talk about your technology. Can you try to use a simple term to explain what is micro LED and what is a mass transfer, which is a major technology associated to the technology development?
I actually mentioned that when I married to my wife, actually many of her colleagues ask, what is LED, like 20 years ago? So people, they don't understand what LED is at that time. But today, if you talk about LED, everyone understands that. Regarding micro LED, it is just a very small size of LEDs. Normally you can see LEDs if you take apart your lamp, you can see that. But micro LEDs, it's super small, so you probably cannot see with your eyes. And the size is like as big as we call pixel as in the display. So normally micron size, 20 micron, 10 micron size. And so we use these super small LEDs to make a display. So we arrange them carefully, periodically in a glass called like a backplane, and then we can light it up as much as you want. So this becomes micro LED display. So it's a super easy thing compared to other display technology.
Can you just explain to the audience, because like a common display technology we are touching using every day, no matter like a LCD panel or OLED. Can you tell us, and again in a very simple term, what is the main differences between these two technology?
There are actually two major conventional technology right now, which is LCD and OLED. So for LCD, micro LED is very different from LCD in the way that LCD is controlled by liquid crystal. So this is like a shutter. So you open the shutter, then the light comes out. You close the shutter, the light didn't go through. Basically, this is a very power-consuming technology. Normally, I would say for LCDs, you use only 5% or even 1% of the power to the light you see. So it's very inefficient. And micro LED, of course, is very different from this. On the other hand, there's a technology called OLED, OLED technology. It is very similar to what we are working on, the micro LED. So they are self-emissive technology. We don't need to have a shutter thing, so the material emit light itself. However, OLED, the O is basic, the meaning is organic. Organic is the material that not very strong, not very robust. And this can be kind of damaged by air, by humidity, by oxygen. So generally speaking, OLED display is not a long life technology. Normally, we probably need to change that every few months to every few years. So we don't think that this can be a very sustainable technology. On the other hand, micro LED, as you can see today, lighting systems based on LEDs last 100,000 hours or even more. This can be one of the very strong points for micro LED. So micro LED is very efficient and also very reliable, very robust technology.
I guess our audience also want to know where those technology, particularly micro LED technology, can be applied to in real life, in terms of like a product application. Can you give us a little bit of idea?
Okay. If I make a very strong comment that micro LED can do everything for display, but of course it's not going to happen tomorrow. So we do see for the market there is a trend that we will see large size display, that conventional display like LCD or OLED, they are very hard to do, like TV more than 100 inch. Micro LED can do that easily. And a very bright display for wearable devices, for like your watch or even AR glasses. It's very hard for LCD or OLED to do. MicroLED can do that. And also we do see super important technology in automotive. Conventional automotives, they don't do much displays, but today a lot of displays they are installed in automotives. They do need super bright display because car sometimes drive under sunshine, and you need a very bright display. At the same time, you need a very efficient display for electrical cars, and MicroLED can do that easily. And one last thing for MicroLED to do this on automotives is we can do transparent display. We can do super high transparency for automotives. This actually gives them a lot of design capability for next generation automotives.
Is that fair to say that micro LED can do anything, right? Considering the current addressable market for, say, LCD and particularly about OLED, they probably roughly take up a couple $100 billion in terms of market value, right? Would you agree that the mini LED, micro LED potential size should be bigger than the size we're talking about here?
Sure. We believe that display industry is actually keep growing, and they are in a very fast speed to grow up. And as I mentioned, MicroLED can eventually replace LCDs, can eventually replace OLEDs, and also can generate a lot of new possibilities. So I do believe that MicroLED is definitely, we can see much bigger market size compared to what we have today for LCD and OLEDs.
If you go back to your past month or week visit at SID in LA, I believe, right? Can you just share further a little bit detail? What sort of a new application? Again, you already mentioned a lot of a company recognizes very important technology for display. So you see more companies start adopting this new technology. Yes. Can you give us a couple examples that what sort of a new application you're already seeing? And is it going to be happening, say, within like 1 or 2 years?
For the short-term market, I do believe that we see large size display is coming, especially for TV application. But they are not conventional TV. They are kind of like premium TV, more than 100-inch size. And so these are for really high-end applications. We do believe that it's coming within a year. And also we see there's a trend for wearable devices like watch. And we also heard about different consumer electronics company working on that. And we did have a lot of discussion with them on how to really make it happen. At the same time, I want to mention that we talked to many automotive makers, car makers, and also the tier 1 companies who supply electronics to the car makers. So they are working on designing the technology into the next generation automotives. And generally speaking, this will not come within 3 to 5 years because for design and process into automotives normally takes 3 to 5 years. But they are in the process of designing right now. So we have strong confidence that it's also coming very soon.
Great. I bet that to make this technology can really move smoothly as was adopted by most of your customer, I believe the cost reduction and the yield rate are two very important in the equation, right?
Sure.
Can you explain a little bit what is the methodology and how would you expect the cost can be reduced in the fast fashion as well as the improvement in your yield rate?
This is a very critical question. And so as I mentioned, year 2017, or nobody really heard about this micro-LED technology. Year after year, people start to asking, oh, is this really possible? Is this something you can really make a demo? So kind of after a few years, today, the final hurdle of people to really take it is the cost of micro-LED display. But I want to first make a strong point that in every new technology starts with high cost. LCD, it was 100 to even 500 times higher cost compared to what we have today. So there is a process to reduce the cost every year. And we believe that microLED can do much faster first, and then we also believe that microLED can be even cheaper than what we have today for LCD and OLED. One easy way to explain this is microLED follows Moore's law. Okay. So you see today in Taiwan, of course, or in the world, people understand Moore's law pretty much that every 12 months or 18 months, for the same size of the silicon, they can double the density of transistors, which means we reduce 50% of the cost every 12 months to 18 months. Same thing happened in microLEDs. So today we have, just for example, we have a size of 20 micron by 20 micron chip. We can reduce the size of the chip like 50% every year. To do this reduction of the size is not hard, but at the same time, we have to keep the same performance, just like what we have done for silicon industry for the last 20 years. So we do believe there's a chance we can reduce the size, keep the same performance every year. And if you do this math carefully, every year 50%, then we reduce 95% of the cost after 5 years. And it's not the end of the story. We will reduce another 95% of the cost after another 5 years, and then another 95%. There's a huge chance that we'll have super cheap, high performance display after a few years. And we do believe that we'll see much more applications on that as well.
It's very interesting you brought up that kind of comparable between like a Moore's law versus the cost reduction in the micro LED industry. If I can challenge that a little bit, it was prevailing for 60 years in Moore's law, getting close to the end according to some of the experts, right? But at the same time, the company like a TSMC, at least in the first maybe 20, 25 years, they spend a lot of capital and resources try to keep the leadership ahead of a rest competitor. Again, that demand a lot of investment. Would that be the same logic for your industry, where you require a lot of capital investment?
Well, I do believe this is a manufacturing technology. So we are talking about display. So we do believe that there will be a lot of capex investment for future micro-LED display. And but if your question is regarding PlayNitride, regarding the company, we do hope that we don't need to do that ourselves. We are in Taiwan. We have a lot of experienced manufacturing company in Taiwan. They have done great jobs for the last few years. They know how to control. They know how to do real manufacturing. And we believe that they can be very good partners for PlayNitride. And we should be able to collaborate with this experienced manufacturing company together to do the whole thing and to really make it happen.
Can we put it that your company, PlayNitride, yes, they try to adopt a very different kind of approach, i.e., can I call it like an asset-light approach?
Yes.
Can you just further elaborate what is the business model? Since you're going to take a quite different as a manufacturing sort of strategy, what is your end game for?
Yeah, I like your term asset-light. And so if you look at the semiconductor industry, actually they have demonstrated this kind of possibilities of business model. So IC design house, they can do their own design. They keep explore different market using different kind of design of their chips, and they have a common huge manufacturing site like TSMC or UMC, and we are working on these possibilities right now. We do believe that more and more designs are needed for micro-LED display we can explore different kind of applications, different kind of customers. In this case, we don't need to focus on just doing manufacturing. We need to have some companies, they can do a lot of investment, then they can control very serious process of manufacturing. They know how to protect customers' secret. They know how to do things more cost effective. So we do believe we can find the partners in Taiwan, and then we can be more like a design-oriented company and also a customer-oriented company. So this is the goal for PlayNitride in this industry.
That maybe also reflect into the board structure and your many other particular strategic investor, because when any investor, it couldn't help but looking the very interesting combination of your board member, right?
Sure.
You have AUO, you have Samsung. There are two very strong display technology company in the world, right?
Yes.
Of course, also prove you are very smart and sophisticated fundraiser. You can put two very distinct kind of company. What's your strategy, and how can you make it?
This is also a very nice question, but this will actually come back to the original of the company when we started. In the beginning, I just thought we should do something new, and that's it. But then I figure it's very hard for a new technology, or for, I should say, even like a new industry. Ecosystem is very important. We cannot just build up the whole ecosystem ourselves. We have to have our partners upstream or downstream. So in this case, I think we should find, upstream partners, downstream partners, or even, collaborators together. Samsung, no doubt, is one of the biggest consumer electronics player. AUO, one of the best LCD panel maker in Taiwan. And we do have Ennostar or Epistar, who is one of the biggest or the best LED maker in Taiwan as well. We try to talk to them and say, okay, this is something we have to work together. We have to build up the whole industry. Especially in Taiwan, there is a kind of demand that we don't have OLED industry in Taiwan. So we understand that there will be a huge competition for the LCDs and OLEDs. If the LCD companies, they cannot have a next generation display technology, they will be in trouble. So we talked to all of them, and they kind of believe that this is a combination, and I do believe so as well. In this case, we also at the same time, they understand that they don't want anyone to control the whole thing. It's just like, for SML, they have to talk to like Samsung, TSMC, and Intel at the same time. So this is how we kind of build up this. So we have a very balanced board directors in my board.
Again, I believe PlayNitride for sure is a front runner in the micro LED industry, but you are not the only one.
We are not, yeah.
In the competition. Can you just tell us a little bit about the landscape at a global basis? What kind of a competition and the potential outcomer in this particular space?
When we started the company, there are actually a few of also startup companies working on micro LED at the same time. But luckily, we have the fastest growth. Compared to others, they are still at the beginning stage, but we are much more mature right now. One of the reasons is we have real customers. So we build up our fab based on customers' request. So they have their own very, very serious quality control system. So we have to pass all that. So we become a real production company right now. I mean, of course, we mentioned that we don't want to build up huge production capacity, but we have to build up the beginning. And we have successfully built up the production capacity right now. We still see a few of other micro LED players today, and we treat them as partners. They are working on their own different technologies. They are working on their own different markets. So to be honest, we try to work with them all together. So the competition actually for me or for PlayNitride, we see the competition is actually micro LED and OLEDs. So we are facing the fast growth of OLED as well. So for last few years, OLED is growing really, really fast. And we understand the resources for the display industry, they are limited. So if OLED really grows much faster, then micro LED will be slower. So we are working with all these micro LED different players together so that we can push the display industry to see this carefully, and then people can do more into micro LEDs. So this is what we see today for the
landscape. If we purely look it into micro LED technology itself, right?
Sure.
This regardless the dynamic between OLED and micro LED. What would you consider your close competitor in the world? And also, we also know Chinese company done a lot of investment in this particular space. You always hear one kind of argument, Chinese already done that. What's the chance for the new company, like a PlayNitride, can make a niche in that particular space?
For micro LED, I think this is a ecosystem competition, not a company to company competition. So as I mentioned, we were lucky, or we are lucky today that we kind of work with very good companies in the world, like Samsung, AUO, or even Epistar, Enostar. And we do believe this group is very much ready for competition to other groups from China, from other different combination of the companies. And we see, if you really, you have to ask me a few company names. We do see Apple is working on this, and we do see China companies working on that. But today, we still believe that we are, including Samsung, AUO, PlayNitride, or even Epistar, we are still the most advanced company groups in the world today that we can do production. We can fulfill customers' requests. We can fulfill the really demand for kind of cost, kind of production, EO, kind of like the capacity today. So we see us as still world number one at this moment.
Well, just like a semiconductor industry in the world, right? U.S. launched CHIP Act, and they organize all different kind of a group working against or confronting with a Chinese company. Again, on the top of that, there's a geopolitical concern. In micro LED or in the greater sort of a display industry, do you sense the similar kind of alliance is building apart? And also particularly as a micro LED, how strategical micro LED will be considered advanced country like US and Japan?
Generally speaking, I believe that 90% or even more of the display industry is in Asia. And originally, when the earth is flat, the world is flat, it's okay. But recently, we understand that the world becomes not so flat. So there's a confrontation between US and China. And also we do see for last few years, COVID-19 supply chain, people demand or request more localized manufacturing. And in this case, we see a lot of chances for PlayNitride. Not like conventional display industry, like huge display systems, Gen 8.5, Gen 10, or Gen 10.5. They request a lot of capex investment in one fab. Micro LED can be separated or segmented into small production site with reasonable cost of the capex investment. This is very suitable for European companies or US companies, they can set up their small foundry or small fab in close to their end users, car makers, consumer electronics users. So we see a lot of customers request us to build up our facilities in US, in Europe, or even China as well. So in this case, I see the future display industry may be a little different. Maybe it's not 90%, 95% in Asia. Maybe they move back a little bit to close to what they really need to be.
That's also quite new to me. If I have to ask you a tipping point kind of question, because we know there's a great technology and your revenue and the production almost like a double every year. But again, along with the cost reduction and the improvement in the yield rate, right? What would you say any particular like a year as a tipping year? We're gonna see everything gonna be just so happen. If there's a year, what would you say?
I'm not sure if I can answer this correctly, but the cost is really a competition. So when we say it's really happening, that means the cost or the price of the micro LED is really close to OLEDs or close to LCDs. This strongly depends on the applications. So as I mentioned, the large size display like TV, if you talk about today, micro LED display is cheaper than LCD and OLED already.
Okay.
Because they are expensive in this kind of big size. So, but if we are talking about like cell phone, like what is normal today for the IT applications, I would like to say it would take probably 5 to 10 years to make it happen. So optimistically, I would say 2030 will be, there might be a chance.
Okay.
But before that, we will see a lot of new applications happening. So micro LED will keep going up really fast, not only double, probably we see triple or even more for the applications or for the capacity we need.
Well, if I can go back to one of the statement you made, because you are not just as a manufacturer of a micro LED, you actually create a brand new business model and the ecosystem associated with that. Would I fair to say that that is a foundation that you can defend the argument that the Chinese company, well, the Chinese company got a lot of capital, and they also done a lot of capex in the micro LED development. Would you argue or defend yourself so you can find out your niche and work around the competition? You are not even at the same league.
I'm not sure if we can defend this. I do believe that any technology, if it gets matured, then of course it's very cost-driven thing, and eventually it will goes to the place that probably the most cost-effective place today, maybe China, tomorrow maybe Vietnam or even India. So it's very hard to defend that cost-wise. So for us, of course, we do believe that to build up a league, to build up an ecosystem is very important, and this will keep us last for some time. But eventually, I still believe that either PlayNitride or Taiwanese companies, we have to keep innovative. We cannot just say, okay, that's it. That's just try to cut everything out. We have to still working with Chinese companies. We have to still work with Indian companies or Vietnam companies. Not only reduce the cost, but also we have to do something innovation. We have to raise up our values so that we can survive. So this is my philosophy.
Let's move to more about your personal front, right?
Sure.
Well, first of all, PlayNitride. The name is a very interesting name. Why you name your company PlayNitride in the first place? Does it hold any significance or in terms of philosophy or what?
When we started the company, I have to clarify that I don't really know how to build up a company at the moment. So we treat this as a fun thing. It's not like as challenging as today. But so first, we are working on nitride materials. This LED thing is based on gallium nitride material. So we believe that we should have a nitride in the company name. And we also try to be more fun. You know, people in my age, we started with Nintendo or Sony PlayStation. So we say, oh, PlayStation sounds to be a nice name. So we try to build up them together and then try to make some fun. And this is how it works in the beginning. So we named PlayNitride.
Are you the gamer yourself?
Kind of, when I was young, not today.
That's an interesting combination.
Yeah.
And also, again, is it easy to talk about like you become the first ever tradable list public company for the micro LED? But again, in the last 10 years, it got to be experienced a lot of up and down. What was the most terrible downturn in the past 10 years?
Well, I got so many downturns. I don't know which one to choose, you know.
Just choose one, the worst one.
Well, I got a few. One of really the worst is, I would say, when we kind of successfully done our first fundraising, I do believe that money can probably last for 5 years. But right after 1 year, we realized that it's probably will be gone within 6 months. So I was expecting 5 years, and it turns out to be only 1.5 years. So I kind of shocked at that time, and I realized that I have to do another fundraising. I talked to original investors. They were really unhappy with that, as you can imagine, right? So, but they do believe me that I didn't spend it the wrong way. So we kind of successfully raised another round of the money. At that time, I still can remember that I was so anxious, I was so nervous, so worried about we just cannot make it. So that's probably one of the worst case. And another one similar to that is when we really make our customers happy, like Samsung, when we did a very successful R&D job, they asked us to go for production. You know, I'm like R&D person. I don't know much about manufacturing, but I understand that this is very critical for my customer. They need us to go for manufacturing. They need us to do that. So when they ask me, it only spent me like 10 seconds to say, okay. But after that time, I really don't know what to do. I was there, you know, thinking about if I did the right answer, what's going to happen for me, how to raise the money for a manufacturing site. So it's another thing that I remember, like it's a hard time for me at that time. Yeah.
Doesn't sound too tough. You made it happen again and again.
Yeah, I have to say I was, you know, kind of lucky for this journey. Yeah.
Well, just compared to how the significance of the display industry you built up, it doesn't seem to me you raised a lot of fun. I mean, the money.
I understand. Yeah.
So can you share with us how much money you raised before the company went for the IPO?
I think we raised about 200 million.
200 million.
Yeah, US dollars.
That number seems to be large number, right, in Taiwan. But
as a startup company.
As
yes.
a startup company,
Yes.
right, which we're very well done, very well done. But if you compare to such a disruptive technology at the global basis, particularly you ever compare to the money get raised in the Silicon Valley, even in China, I would say that's a very humble amount. I bet you should be really proud of that. And how can you make it?
Well, we take a lot of advantage of what we have in Taiwan. So if we really have to build up everything ourselves, then we definitely need to raise much more than that. For example, the backplane itself, if we have to do this ourselves, then we probably need to raise 10x of the money to do that. But we have very strong supply chain in Taiwan. We have, or even in China a little bit. So we take advantage of this. We work with partners together. We use conventional IC, driver IC. We use conventional TFT makers technology. So it makes everything a little bit easier and spend much less money for doing this.
I think this is a very, very Taiwan business model, right?
I think so.
You are quite efficiently taking advantage of a pretty close tight ecosystem. Within Taiwan, also to a certain degree, reach out to China.
Right.
I think that is something very unique. My very last question is, you was a professor before, right? You got a lot of experience, share your life experience with a student. As now you've been successfully going public, so you share a lot of lifetime experiences in the capital market with a founder, right? No matter to students in the school, in the college, or the upcoming founder, if there is one lesson you want to share, what would that be?
Well, if I can treat myself, for the PlayNitride journey as kind of like a successful story, I would say I would tell students, tell my employees, tell people that try to challenge the real challenging things. Try to avoid easy things. That's first. And also, we have to keep innovating. We cannot just stop and become like no innovation. We have to keep innovating. This is very important for me.
That's a really valuable lesson to share. That also what make you the #1 company to list in the Taiwan Innovation Board.